one of the things that made this program different from any that I had been involved in before was a level of violence that the young people had lived with and grown up with. And their parents had too. So we're talking about conflict that was generational and existential, which is kind of a deadly combination. It's two peoples who want to destroy the other in order to be themselves. And as John would say, they're both right and they're both wrong in terms of legitimacy. And they weren't willing to give. It was either we're right and you're wrong, or nothing. So most of the people in Seeds of Peace come to the camp convinced that they are completely right and the other side is completely wrong. And they are 14 years old, 14, 15 years old when they first come. And they have been chosen by their governments as representatives of the government. That gives them some safety, some cover to be, interacting with enemies because they are representing their government. It also helps them when they go back home because they weren't doing anything sneaky. They were selected. So they're usually selected by their Ministry of Education. Sometimes it's called informal education. And they go through a lot to get chosen, so it's a big honor to come to Seeds of Peace. And I have been involved in lots of camp activities myself. I've been a camper in Maine and a counselor and a head counselor, and been a head counselor when it rained every day of the summer. I know you know how hard that is. That just happened to us again a couple of years ago. And with the kids from the Middle East and from South Asia and Central Asia, they're not used to rain in the summertime. For them, it only rains and sparingly in the winter. So at first, they're kind of charmed by that thing, but soggy, wet clothes and being outside in the rain all the time is not that much fun after a while. By the second week, you've really had it. So anyway, that's beside it. I'm sure we deal with people who are just imbued with more, maybe not. No, I'm not sure. Okay, never mind. Scratch that. We're not sure. But the people we deal with have a feeling about the people on the other side of the conflict that is very strong. It's enemy feeling. It's really not friendly. So they're afraid of each other, and they are very wary and suspicious of each other. And what we do at our camp is put them in a position that you would normally only reserve for your family or your friends. You normally would not sleep next to somebody who wants to kill you. It's not a normal thing, right? Because when you're asleep, you couldn't be more vulnerable than when you're sound asleep. And you would not share food with people that are your enemy. You usually just do that with your friends and your family. Even when you guys walked in here, what did you do? Who were you sitting with? Yeah, okay, and you're not even enemies that I know of, right? Okay? Right? Okay, so one person came in from a different place and nobody went over and said, why don't you come sit with us? And who are you and all that? I mean, it's human nature, right? I'm talking about you. It's human nature that we just feel more comfortable with people who are in our group, whatever the group is. And what Seeds of Peace tries to do is expand the circle of concern beyond their family, their country, their religion, to include as many people as possible, and hopefully everybody at camp, at least. And then we send them back home, and we work with them in their communities, doing all kinds of activities, probably a lot of the activities that you do, and keep up with them. But a lot of times giving them opportunities to be leaders, because we want them to be the leaders, because we're looking for people who are courageous and compassionate. We're looking for people who are willing to take risks to get something more than they have right now, so that their children will not live in war. Now, their parents lived in war, and their grandparents lived in war. What can we do to stop this continual cycle of violence? So this is what we're trying. Anybody have any questions before I go on? Because I'm going to give you something to do. Yeah.
You might already be going here, but I guess what specific type of activities do you do? Are you just looking
you
to
name
start
it, we
a
do it.
Or?
No, they have a dialogue once a day for about 90 minutes with people from their own conflict areas who know the situation, and they are trained by us. And a lot of times they are former campers now that we have so many people have grown up. But besides that, they have every kind of sport you can do on 44 acres and a lake. So we have all kinds of boating, water skiing, swimming. We have a fantastic ropes course, and the ropes course is used to augment the dialogue. That I think is really special. For example, if you have an Israeli and an Arab dialogue group, and you have, what happens a lot of times is a really bright, charismatic member of one group will be the spokesperson, be the one that everybody turns to for the answers. And then there's somebody like that on the other side as well. And the group is kind of stuck because these two are the leaders in the group, and they are talking so much that the other people can't get a word in edgewise. So what the ropes course people will do is give them a group challenge of some kind, something that looks impossible, and it will be explained to them how they should, not how they should do it, but what the objective is. And then they instruct those two people who are always blabbering so much, they're supposed to be mute. They can't talk. So everybody else in the group has to figure out for themselves and develop new leadership in order to accomplish whatever the goal is. And that breaks down that pattern. And then when they meet again, then everybody else starts talking. But there are a lot of things like that we do. All the land sports, including Quidditch. Do you know what that is? That's from Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a really uniting force among this group. So Quidditch looks pretty ridiculous when you can't fly. As part of, in the book, you're supposed to be able to fly. So, but we do the best we can. And cricket, play cricket and baseball. A lot of the games that they play are not, they're not familiar with. So they all start on the same page. Like baseball, they're not familiar with that. Or American football. They don't know about that. They teach us about cricket, though. We don't know that. trying to think. Oh, the other thing that you might find interesting is that every year the NBA sends us about 10 rookies, usually, some experienced basketball players, and also the women's, so is it the NWBA? WNBA, okay. We get a couple of them too, so that the girls can see that they can rise to stardom as well. And they give them master classes for a day and then challenge them like crazy the next day. And they play this at the end, at night they play something. You're going to have to help me with this because I don't know about baseball, but I think it's like 4-on-4 or something like that. Four basketball players challenge 4 others, and then whoever's knocked out is knocked out, and then another 4 come up. Is that called 4-on-4? Something like that. Anyway, that's what they do. Yeah. So this year, for the first time ever, Seeds of Peace beat them, the NBA players. But that's what's so great. We have all of the kids who come to Seeds of Peace are highly competitive. And a lot of them are star athletes from where they come. And so they try really hard to win. And I think I'm convinced that winning trumps everything else. So always when they're playing games at camp, they are on a mixed team. They have Israelis and Palestinians and Egyptians and Jordanians and Pakistanis and Indians and Afghans all mixed up on the teams. So it's not the Pakistanis playing the Indians. That would just make them more patriotic and stick together. So we do mix them up on purpose. And the culmination of the sports program is something called Color Games. I think in other camps they call it Color War, but our kids have enough war, so we call it Color Games. And the coaches divide the whole camp up so that half of them are green and half of them are blue. And it couldn't be more important whether you're green or blue. Just couldn't be more important. They have to have an identity. They go crazy waiting to see if they're going to be blue or green. And one time it was so funny, they were, and this happens late at night and with all kinds of fire and you know, drama going on. And they don't find out till the last minute that there's going to be a color game, because when they're at camp we tell them no, we're not doing it this time. So there's usually a reason, like it's too expensive, somebody got hurt last year, something like that. But then it gets dropped in as a surprise. And then it's a huge build-up introduction to the games. And one time, one kid was told, "You're on the green team." So he went over to the green team. He was jumping up and down. He was so happy, and they were hugging him. And then somebody realized they had made a mistake. "Oh, you're not on that team. You're on the blue team." And the same thing happened. He went over there jumping up and down, and they were hugging him. It's just the point was he needed an identity. That was the main thing. And then for the next 2.5 days, they have sport competitions after another, one right after another. Sometimes it's bunks playing bunks. Sometimes it's all-stars. This happens right at the end of the camp, which is 3.5 weeks long, so we know their talents and their skills. And they compete with such fervor, and they care about it so much that I have to take my BlackBerry with me and put it up on Facebook every time somebody wins some kind of game. All the kids all over the world are tuned in to see whether their team is winning or not. And it's just very, very important. And I know it's winning. winning is the big deal. So, one thing, you're trying to figure out how to work in peace education with what you're doing, or something that would help you with violence in the communities, right? Okay. First, I would like you to do something. I'm going to give you a job. You need to spread out. And you need to find somebody in the room with whom you do not work or know, particularly, other than, well, this is your first meeting, right? So you don't know each other. Okay. Find somebody you don't know, and we'll give you a big piece of paper. And here's what I want you to do. Each one of you draw a line across the length of the paper. That's your lifeline. And I want you to mark on the lifeline when in your life you were affected by some kind of violence. I don't mean to make you do anything you don't want to do. Anything you don't want to deal with, you don't have to do it. But by being affected, I mean it could just be something you heard about, something happened to your family, something happened to you, or a friend, whatever, or it was on TV. But when were the times in your life when violence affected you in some way, had an impact on you? Okay? And I want you to talk about it as you're doing it with the person you've just paired up with. At the end of the exercise, you should know something about that person, and they should know something about you that right now you don't.